All right, Brad. Same first question that I ask everyone to start, but what's your franchise story? How do you even land into franchising? What's the backdrop?
Well, about 10 or 15 years ago, Charles Nagel, our founder, was trying to figure out, he's a turnaround consultant. So he's trying to figure out, how do I get my hand around this multi-unit organization? And so he invented and we patented, the automation of the collection, consolidation, and mapping of franchise owner data to a brand defined standard. Okay. Which gives you the data that you can start looking at, so you can coach your franchise owners and look at things like benchmarking and budget to actual and all those metrics that franchises historically did not look at, but you got to look at them to be a successful franchise owner and a successful brand. And Qvinci was founded as a tool to help franchise owners and franchisees uh, 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 really, our tagline is actionable financial insights everyone understands, taking the complex and making it simple. And, one of the things we always saw early on is the disconnect between the collaborative relationship that a franchisor should have with a franchisee. And then we had that big brother syndrome early on. And one of our goals is to foster a collaborative working relationship. So when the franchise owner connects to Qvinci, he's not just connecting it for the franchisor or the brand, he's connected it for himself too, because he's got reporting, he's got benchmarking, he's got budget to action, he's got all these tools that the franchisor is paying for at his disposal to help him become better. We have a lot of single unit franchisees who've become multi-unit franchisees because they can see. Traditionally people looked at point of sale data. That only tells you the cost and your revenue. That doesn't tell you who's getting ready to run out of cash next month, who's spending things on marketing that they shouldn't be spending, who's not using the right vendors that we contracted to do. So all that compliance issues comes in there as well and gives you kind of a 360 view of the franchise location. So that's what started with us, and that's our focus today, on going forward.
So great opening. So to a franchisor or to a multi-unit operator or to a single unit operator, the data is only as good as you make it. And so when the data is pulled and it's sitting there, and even from a comparable data standpoint, if it sits there but nobody uses it, then it ends up being worthless. How much intersection do you have to play to say, hey, franchisor, you don't know how to read this information, let us help you?
Okay. What we do is, first of all, we have a tool in Qvinci. We call it the Data Month Ready feature, where you can easily determine which one of your franchise owners in your coaching group has their books up to date. They don't have their books up to date. You're right. You don't have good data. You don't have good metrics. So if you have the data up to date, then we have an advisory portal and a KPI scorecard specifically designed for the franchise business coach and the franchise owner, or the Z, to give them those metrics simply put out there in a green, you're good, red, we got to talk a fashion. So if you got the KPI scorecard and you got a host of green but 5 red areas, next month you got to focus on those 5 red areas. It may be cost of goods sold is trending 20% off or whatever. And we also have benchmarking. So each one of the franchise owners, or the Zs, can see where they stand in the group, and to each one of the areas in their chart of accounts. But you're 100% correct that you got to have good data. And the way we attack that is we give one of our salesperson the other day called it franchisee candy. We make sure we have enough good things for the franchise owner, or the Z, to incentivize him to work with the ZOR to keep his data up, because he's getting as many things out of this as the ZOR is getting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of our goals. What's one of our strategic goals going forward is to add more Z related features and functionalities, because the ZOR and the Z have a common interest here. Get the data done, get it done right. Because if the ZOR keeps up his books, our patented data consolidation feature that happens at night, and it consolidates the data to a brand defined standard chart of accounts. Now, that doesn't change the Z's data. That just consolidates it for purposes of reporting. We don't change the underlying QuickBook file. In fact, you have a switch in Qvinci. You can run reports on a native or a standard chart of accounts if you like. So that's a big thing for us. But you're 100% correct. We are we are definitely trying to make sure that the Z has more things at Qvinci at his disposal, so they want to join in and keep their books up, because they get the reporting and the business intelligence. When COVID hit, we came out with this what if cash flow forecasting tool, and it basically puts up there and says, if I don't do anything today, I'm gonna run out of money in November. Then you could take all your chart of accounts, and there's a percentage by each one of them, and play with each one of the things in your chart of accounts to see what can I cut, what can I do better at, and then it shows you the direct impact of those decisions. And I think we had 908 people show up for the first webinar. It's a great tool. We sell it every day. It's so simple to use, but it really gives the Z the same data as the ZOR. If I don't do anything today, come January 31st, I'm out of money.
Yeah.
Well, if I cut this cost by 5%, that cost by 8%, that cost, and then it does a what if to actual. So you can see the next month. Well, you know what? I thought that cutting cost was going to work. That didn't work too well. Let's try something else.
Right.
And you do that on a month-to-month basis. So, which goes along with our theory of, we owe a duty to both the ZOR and the Z. The ZOR hires us, but if I can't get the Z to really jump in head first, it ain't gonna work.
So in the relationship to the Z, is it the franchise business coach or consultant that ends up being the vital person that you guys have to get set up with the right information so that they can coach the franchisee? Because even equipped with the information, it's like every franchisor has Google Analytics, and Google Analytics can show you what does your pipeline look like, but they don't know how to use it unless you're set up the right way. So in that scenario, is the business coach the point of contact for you guys?
Well, we don't sell to them because they don't make the decision. The VP of Ops and the CFO, but we definitely work with the franchise business coaches every day. And you're right, we set up the account. Like the advisory portal is set up per franchise business coach with the people under him. And each franchise business coach would only see the data associated with the people under his charge. Okay. And then the ZOR can see everybody, the CFO, depending on how you set up the permissions. But that is so true. We just finished a marketing survey. 588 people responded, and they came up with 3 things that are important in franchises. We just did this. This was like 2 weeks ago. The number one thing was financial insights and consolidation. Got to get that right. That goes back to what you said about making sure you got the data right, making sure it's up to date. The second thing is operations and coaching for performance. Okay, and there's a whole number of subcategories under that, but that's the major category. And the third category is brand compliance and expansion. Those are the 3 things that we believe that are most important in a franchise, and they're most important for both the franchisor and the franchisee. Because brand expansion, one of the big things today is getting your Zs to buy more units.
Right.
And if you could use Qvinci's predictive analytics to go out there and show an owner of a store say, hey, listen, you own this store. If we added 4 more stores and we kept this same metrics, this is what you'd make. And one of the things we do is we call it the green and red paradigm. Make things simple. It's green is good, red we got to talk. That's what people understand. Most mom and pops, they don't understand traditional financials, and they're not really interested. Right. You give somebody a balance sheet. You give me a balance sheet. I don't want that. But I give them a very succinct 1 or 2 page report with just the red areas that you have to focus on. You can execute on that.
Yeah, it organizes your to-dos. It's very, very simple. It's
right.
It's teaching children how to actually run business.
Right.
Well, look, I mean, Brad, I remember a long time ago, one of our long-time clients, 2 men in a truck. I'm sitting in a meeting with their executives, and we're trying to figure out, like, what are the points of differentiation with the organization. And I say, well, you've had some good lift out of your franchisees. What was it? And they said, well, we exposed all of their P&Ls to each other on the back-end database. And what that meant was franchisee A might look and say, here's how much franchise B is spending on labor. What am I doing wrong? And so what you've done is you've aggregated all of that data and said, here, franchisees, here's what the aggregate for the system looks like, so that you can benchmark against it, because oftentimes they don't know what success looks like. On the other flip side of it, I think, just even if it's just red and green, if there's not a franchise business coach involved, like, franchisees are not naturally born experts in everything that comes to running the business. And so you've said, okay, look, even if you don't know what you're looking at, follow the red ones and say, what's the action plan, and ask questions around that. So I think it's deeply valuable.
Yeah. I agree. And you franchise business coach, either formally or informally, someone to guide that process is really, really imperative. Because you're right. If I have 5 donut shops, I know how to make donuts. Okay. I'm not interested in a lot of finance and things like that. I want to make donuts, and I want to know specifically where I'm going wrong in making those donuts, and go back to making donuts. and that's what we try to do. Is make it simple.
I think you're doing a great job. So, to a franchisor out there who, or even a powerful multi-unit franchisee, which this could be deeply valuable to them too, what do you want them to know about the business that would make them reach out now?
Well, I guess the key thing is, we're focused on their needs. Okay. And their needs are in those 3 areas: financial insights and data consolidation, operations and business coaching, and brand compliance and expansion. And we provide the tools to make the analysis, to make that simple. Yeah. Before Qvinci came along, you had to get a team of people to consolidate this data. We can do what takes people weeks overnight. I mean, we simplify the process, we automate the process, and we let you spend time doing what you do best, which is running your franchise brand, expanding your franchise brand, and not have to get embroiled in, making phone calls and emails. Oh, you forgot to send in your financials for this month, because we do all that happens in the background once you're connected to Qvinci. And so we take all those processes and automate them.
Out of curiosity, if I'm a franchisor, I've signed up, my franchisees are on, can I look to comparable data with other franchisors within the system, or is it just limited to mine?
Well, today, as we stand here today, it's peer benchmarking within your group.
Yeah.
We are currently working on a benchmarking by property, or benchmarking by filter.
Yeah.
Okay, we represent a lot of big brands, and so if I'm an Orange Theory Fitness and I only want to measure my people in cities of this size with this demographics, I can limit my benchmarking to that and
Right.
not measure Jacksonville, Florida to Los Angeles, California.
Right.
And but right now it's peer benchmarking, but we're going to expand that to industry benchmarking and then benchmarking by filter. We're actually currently designing that right now, which a lot of the bigger brands are needing that, so they can benchmark by filter or property and then switch back and forth. Let's see how you do against this group, that group, how big group, small group, and we're hoping to have that done sometime next year.
I love it. Last question, just for clarity. Is there a unit size that is your minimum for them to be able to be successful from a benchmarking standpoint?
Well, we don't like to do benchmarking under 11. Okay, because we feel that under 11 people are going to figure out who it is, and you want to have security. Now, if you own all 11, or all 10, or all 8, we'll do anything because you own them all, and you want to see which one's doing better. But in a group, and that's one of the reasons why we're trying to do some industry benchmarking, and we have enough data inside of Qvinci now, anonymized, that we're getting close to where we could do that. So our goal is, don't make a difference how big you are. If you add industry benchmarking now, we can give you some data.
I mean, just purely that direction that you're going in is going to be deeply valuable back to the franchise community. I mean, right now, say for instance, franchise sales data, and I know that's not comparable here, but if you go to an IFA and you say, what's the cost per deal? Some people are going to say 15,000, some are going to say 20, some are going to say 25. That's fine, but what that doesn't take into account is number of units the brand has, what was the cost of investment. And so when you start breaking it all down, you realize that all franchise brands are not created equal. What you're going to be able to do, purely based on city and size of investment, the comparable data as you continue to build this out is going to give such big insights back to brands that even on viability of the franchise opportunity, if you're benchmarking and you're like, look, for my investment size in the cities that I'm in, our sales are 20% less than everybody else, then the viability of your franchise opportunity decreases. That's where like the direction that you're going is going to be huge. And the more and more data and more franchisors that participate, the better the data is going to become. And this could be just the start of something quite impactful. And I'm excited to see where you guys go.
Yeah, we are too, and because that's a huge area. But thank you very much for asking. So
yeah, love it.
Hopefully we have it out next year.
Well, for anybody that's watching, find Brad on LinkedIn or go to Qvinci.com. Website is up on my site. Look forward to seeing more about the story. Brad, thanks for sharing yours. This is another episode of Meet the Supplier. Take care.
Thanks, Nick.